Well, we've been expecting it for quite some time now for Amazon to create their own phone. And after a pretty successful line of tablets in the Kindle Fire series, they have decided to create what they call the Amazon Fire phone. And earlier today, we got a lot of information about it. Now, I wasn't able, obviously, as you can see behind me, to go to the actual event, even though I tried to get an invite, but I did just watch the entire press conference. And so it's Joshua Vigar from Android Authority. What's going on, everybody? And this is the Amazon Fire phone event rundown. I'm just going to go ahead and jump into everything right now. We'll talk about the phone itself, and you can see the footage here from the actual press conference itself that the phone has Gorilla Glass 3 on the front and back, so you got dual glass panels, and it's all put together with a rubber skeleton. But if you look a little bit closely, you might see that some of the design choices are kind of eerily iPhone, especially with the bottom portion with the USB connector and also those grills on the sides of it. But aside from that, it has a pretty minimalistic, a pretty nice build, and it does look like it's going to be really easy to handle, especially because the screen is 4.7 inches. So usability and accessibility is something that Amazon has always wanted to really drive home when it comes to all of their devices, and that looks like it's going to be the case here. Now, we'll get into that in a little bit, but let's move on to some of the internals. What we have here is what they didn't say was the type of processor it was, but it was pretty obvious when you say 2.2 gigahertz quad-core processor that comes with the Adreno 330. Well, it's pretty obvious that it's not the Snapdragon 801 that is available now, but it's the Snapdragon 800. So it might be just a small step backwards in terms of the processing package compared to what is available now, but for the most part, that should make the pretty minimalistic Fire OS work pretty well already. Mayday returns, and it was a very nice feature on the tablets that allows the general user to get the help that they need when they just can't figure out exactly what they got to do in order to make a function work on their phone. Mayday is really easy to use. It is honestly probably the best customer service experience you're going to have anywhere, and given the fact that all of these users on Mayday, all of these representatives are able to control the phone, you can pretty much have them do what it is you need them to do, and you don't even have to touch the phone. You just let them do all the work. So that's kind of cool. I can see a lot of general users really loving the Mayday feature, and if they've never had a Kindle Fire tablet before, well, now they're going to see what it's all about in the Fire phone. After that, we have the Firefly, and Firefly is a very interesting feature that might prove really useful for a lot of people out there, especially since the SDK is on its way to a lot of developers in order for them to create actions based upon the Firefly. Essentially, you take the phone and you send and you give it something to look at. So either it's a product of some sort, a barcode, a QR code, or even information on any type of surface like a paper or a flyer or really a sign, even a billboard of sorts. And when it looks at the actual content you're giving it, it will find the pertinent information needed. In some cases, it will find, let's say, the phone number so that you can save it, and then after that, if you show it a product, it might be able to scan that entire product, like say a book, and find out exactly what it is through some recognition magic and after that, head over to Amazon and be able to give you the links to be able to buy those products or to call those numbers yourself. It's a very interesting feature that, according to a lot of reports, is actually very accurate, or almost surprisingly accurate. So it's something that might become very ubiquitous to users of the Fire phone, to be able to recognize anything in the world and be able to do anything about it. But Firefly is also able to tap into various media outlets as well. If there's music playing in a room, or even if your TV is playing a TV show, you can have the audio captured, and Amazon will find everything that is to know about that song, along with obviously links for you to buy the actual content. Firefly is ultimately one of those features that has a few very specific functions, and there are a couple things that you have to keep in mind about it. Obviously, it is a feature that is made primarily for you to tap into Amazon's ecosystem and continuously buy products. Obviously, that's the way that Amazon makes money. But it's also a feature that might prove really useful even if you're not a Prime member or you don't really use Amazon too much, because all of these other developers are going to create actions for it that you could still use outside of the Amazon ecosystem. I think that's the part that's actually really exciting about Firefly, and I'm interested to see what particular companies create actions out of this particular function in order to really open up what it can do. And finally, here is the feature that I'm still a little bit skeptical on because, well, the the presentation basically made it seem like, oh, look how cool this is. And the whole time I kept thinking, well, it's not necessarily that useful. It is kind of cool, but it's more of eye candy than anything. And that's the dynamic perspective. Now, the presentation started off by showing you lock screens that ultimately were not all that exciting. Pretty much you just move the phone around and you get to look around the lock screen that they have created specifically for that purpose. But then they started talking, or then Jeff Bezos started to talk about more aspects of the phone that take advantage of the dynamic perspective. And essentially, a couple areas were like in the maps where you can see a 3D perspective of where your location is and you can see around the streets and whatnot, which was kind of cool. But the one that I feel like everyone is going to really start using is, well, all of the gesture commands. If you're in the home screen and you want to open up the shade from the right or the left in order to perform more functions, you just tilt the phone in that direction. I think that's pretty cool. You will always end up having to tap or swipe for the most part in a lot of different areas of the phone, but that's okay. Being able to start off the natural movement of moving your hand a certain way is kind of nice. Plenty of users out there who are already seasoned, let's say iPhone or Android users, might not look at that feature and think it's revolutionary, but it might be something they use from time to time. The one that I know a lot of people will end up using probably is the scroll. Now, we've seen this kind of auto scroll in phones like the Samsung Galaxy S4 and 5, but maybe they weren't completely implemented well. Well, on the Amazon Fire phone, they might be implemented at their best, at least from what we've seen so far, because they have really upped the ante in terms of getting the recognition done right. There are 4 cameras, 4, including infrared lights behind them on the very corners of the front of the phone that will always be detecting where your face is, and it actually detects your face as the presentation showed, and it will be able to see what perspective your face or your head is actually in order to create the action. And that's actually really cool. It's a way that Amazon, I guess, had to really figure out how to create that particular function and make it work flawlessly, at least close to it, because in the past we would just use the front-facing cameras and hope that they, in their one optic package, sort of construction, hope that they would be able to get the job done. But now you have 4, so they really just sort of threw all the tools in order to make this one particular type of function work. After that, what I do like seeing from Amazon though is the fact that they are opening up so much to third-party services like Netflix and Spotify, because one of the biggest problems that I had with the Kindle Fire tablets was the fact that it really felt, let's say, crippled if you did not use a Prime membership. The reason why I think it's interesting that they even were showing Netflix, iHeartRadio, all these other services, third-party services, is that if you aren't a big Prime member, you could probably still use this phone to a pretty good potential. Yes, as you go through the Fire OS, you're going to see links everywhere about buying this or shopping for that, and yes, that's the reality of an Amazon product at this point, but it's actually not going to be as bad if you are able to use other services to get your stuff done anyway, like listening to music on Spotify or watching movies on Netflix or HBO Go. All of those are still going to be possible. One of the big features about this phone is the fact that, well, it does have a good performing, it seems like, at least that's what their claim was, 13 megapixel f2.0 OIS camera, which is pretty nice. That's pretty much the spec that you would expect from a flagship device. But all of your photos, literally everything that you do through that camera, is uploaded to Amazon Prime servers for free. Unlimited storage, and it's basically the cloud service of everyone's dreams where they can literally put anything on there that they want. Everything will be backed up automatically. They'll be easily shareable, most likely, to all of the services that you want. And that's kind of a big deal because cloud storage is kind of the future, at least for a number of people. I know I use cloud storage quite a bit, and it's really something that Amazon is pioneering with this particular feature on the Fire phone. So what does it take to get this phone? Well, it is on pre-order now and will start shipping on July 25th and is exclusively found on AT&T for the price of $199 on 2-year contracts. Without a contract, it's $649. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's kind of a more conventional price for a smartphone than, let's say, you're used to from Amazon, given that they're a pretty good company when it comes to creating hardware at affordable prices. Now, in the past, the reason why is because even though the build quality was very nice, there wasn't anything particularly special about it. That is the case here on the phone as well. But with all of these features coming in and the fact that you are going to tap into not just multiple third-party ecosystems like Netflix, which is great, but you're also going to tap in, hopefully, as at least is Amazon's hope, into the robust Prime membership ecosystem. And that's a very big deal for them because that's where the big money lies. So really what you're getting, and when you pay the quote-unquote full price for the Amazon Fire phone, when you probably think you shouldn't have to, is the experience. And they're really banking on the fact that the experience is what you want to buy. And for the most part, if you are already a Prime member, you probably will buy into this particular phone because, well, if you've had the Kindle Fire tablet already, you see how the Prime subscription really enhances the experience on that device, and that will definitely be true for the phone. So keep it tuned to Android Authority for all of the best coverage, including the coverage of the Amazon Fire phone once we get our hands on it. And then after that, keep it tuned here, drop us some likes on our videos, and subscribe if you haven't already. After that, head on over to AndroidAuthority.com because we are your source for all things Android.